Hello, welcome to an adventure. I am Anthony Wright Day Hernandez, Community Collections Archivist here at Virginia Tech, and this is Archival Adventures, the weekly show that I stream from Special Collections and University Archives out on twitch.tv/VTUL Studios and twitch.tv/Rogan27. So the library's channel and my channel. So welcome everybody. It's good to see you. I hope that you are all having a great week. I start talking and then immediately it's like, oh wait, no, it's kind of warm in here. Hang on one second, let me turn this fan on. Yeah, I hope that you're all doing well. Hi Hannah, it's good to see you. Made it just in time, you almost forgot, getting distracted by other things. I mean, I love that you show up regularly, but also I completely understand getting distracted by things. Also, like running around and prepping for stream. I never seem to have enough time to like actually put lotion on before I start. So I'm doing that right now. Yeah, can you believe it is February? It is February, and this is the 96th episode of Archival Adventures. So, 1 month, and it is going to be the 100th episode of Archival Adventures. So I've been looking and planning for what that might look like. Hi, Stephen. You can't believe it's February? Yeah, neither can I. It does not feel like it should be allowed to be February yet. But somehow it is. But yeah, so for coming up on the 100th episode, a month from now, I'm going to pull stuff from a variety of previous episodes. Oh my gosh, Stephen, thank you for the 19-month resubscription. Thank you so much. Hi, Simsilica. Weird time, the middle of the week. We're right on the hump. In the day of, I don't know, it's the hump day. Technically where I am, it is just starting the downslope of the week, I guess. But yeah, so my plan, the well-laid plans, right? I went back and looked at the numbers on total number of live views, total number of VOD views, highlight views, and the YouTube views of like every stream we've done for this program. And the ones that have the most views, along with plenty more content that I could share, I'm gonna pull for the 100th episode. And so that includes some things like the Goff papers, which there's like 85 boxes, and we've done 2 streams on it, and they were both really popular. So I'll have to pick and choose some highlights. Marjorie Rhodes Townsend, one of the NASA women. The Vera Jansoni architectural papers, the ones that had the drawings of like the BART station. That one was really popular. But also, do you remember the first year of streams when we did watercolors of fungi? Just a single folder collection with a random book that we do not know exactly when it's from, other than it's sometime in the 1840s, that just has these gorgeous watercolors, illustrations of various fungus. Or American Woods, the one where I brought the light box up and shone light through, because the book is full of these panels of like paper thin slices of trees. So I'm bringing back some of those most popular things, and we're just gonna, I'm hopefully gonna set up like a timer for myself and be like, we'll spend 5 or 10 minutes on each of them, you all know, I cannot maintain a schedule. I end up deep in an item and I don't move on. But whatever. That is my plan for the 100th episode. And then sometime later this semester, so sometime before June, I will have Kira back on. And I don't remember exactly what topic we were supposed to do this time. Maybe I will get her on to tell the story of the Kellogg's company and the Kellogg family. It is interesting. Very, very interesting. Anyway, we should maybe get to what we're looking at today. But first, today especially, our tradition of reading the land acknowledgement and labor recognition is important. Yes, Simsilica, the brothers Kellogg. It is not what I expected before I learned the story. I don't want to spoil it. I will let Kira do the narration on that. I still have to nail down a time for when she's going to join. And at some point, I may try to get like one of my grad students on to like talk about their area of interest or like a collection they've been working with. And I'm hopefully going to include more guests in future. We'll see. It's in the long-term plan. But first, the land acknowledgement and labor recognition. And thank you very, very much, Hannah, for popping that in there. I guess I will read it from the screen up there. I had tried, I didn't have this one prepared. I tried to make it bigger text slightly below so that I'd have an easier time reading it. I did that with the second page, but not with this one. So this is going to be extra important today, and you'll see why when we start looking at the collection itself. But Virginia Tech acknowledges that we live and work on the Tutelo and Monacan people's homeland, and we recognize their continued relationships with their lands and waterways. We further acknowledge that the Morrill Land Grant College Act of 1862 enabled the Commonwealth of Virginia to finance and found Virginia Tech through the forced removal of Native nations from their lands in Western territories. We understand that honoring Native peoples without explicit material commitments falls short of our institutional responsibilities. Through sustained, transparent, and meaningful engagement with the Tutelo and Monacan peoples and other Native nations, we commit to changing the trajectory of Virginia Tech's history by increasing Indigenous student, staff, and faculty recruitment and retention, diversifying course offerings, and meeting the growing needs of all Virginia tribes and supporting their sovereignty. Virginia Tech acknowledges that its Blacksburg campus sits partly on land that was previously the site of the Smithfield and Solitude plantations, owned by members of the Preston family. Between the 1770s and the 1860s, the Prestons and other local white families that owned parcels of what became Virginia Tech also owned hundreds of enslaved people. We acknowledge that enslaved Black people generated wealth and financed the predecessor institution to Virginia Tech, the Preston and Olin Institute, and they also worked on construction of its building. Not until 1953, however, was the first Black student permitted to enroll. Through Inclusive VT, the institutional and individual commitment to UDPROSIM, that I may serve, in the spirit of community, diversity, and excellence, we commit to advancing a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive community. So, the reason that is a little extra important today is the collection that we are looking at, which is titled Association for the Preservation of Virginia Antiquities, Montgomery County Branch Papers. That's a really cumbersome title and doesn't really tell you a whole lot about what's in the collection. So let's take a look at the abstract. The records largely document the recent history of Smithfield Plantation, which we just heard mentioned in the labor the labor recognition. Ancestral home of the Preston family, focusing particularly on its restoration beginning in 1962. While much of the renovation occurred in the 1960s, many of the records detail other renovation projects done in the 1970s and 1980s. The collection also includes historical and other related documents dating from before the original Preston family's residence at Smithfield. So that kind of gives a little bit of information. You know what I just realized? I forgot to put my headphones on, and I knew something was off. One brief second here while I do that. Also, come on. I was like, something's off, but I couldn't remember what it was. I couldn't hear the music, which I'm very used to now on this stream. So yeah, Smithfield Plantation, which was one of the plantations where the Preston family enslaved black people in this area, and which the land from that plantation became part of the Preston and Olin Institute, which was later given to Virginia Tech, or given over to become part of Virginia Tech. I don't think, I'm trying to jog my memory and I don't remember the details very well. I don't remember if it was purchased. I feel like it was struggling and the legislature was looking for some place to create a land grant institution under the Morrill Act. And so they said, we're going to create it here. Anyway, the first building at Virginia Tech was the building that the Preston and Olin Institute was housed in, which used, like, yeah. So that is all tied in with the history of the Smithfield Plantation and the slavery that happened there. And in fact, we've had a number of events and oral history gathering and reunion stuff and research and all this stuff connecting with the Fraction family, who were one of the main families that was enslaved there. And so that stuff has been happening relatively recently. But what we're looking at today, the Smithfield Plantation is actually on the Register of Historic Places. And around about the 1960s, there was this effort to renovate it, to restore it, and I believe that that was part of preparing it for being added to the Register of Historic Places. I don't know for certain. I'm hoping that that might be something we run across in the collection. So the longer scope and content note, largely document recent history. That's what we got from the abstract. Wow, I literally just read that word like 10 minutes ago and it was gone from my head. So this has been divided into 7 series. There is a series of correspondence. There is a series of publications, a series about the plantation renovation, a series about renovations of other Smithfield Plantation buildings. I don't know the difference between those two. I think that'll be in the scope note, so I might go back to that. Association, okay, that's a typo. It's APVA, the Association for the Preservation of Virginia Antiquities, general files, historical documents, which is literally one of our commands in chat, and miscellaneous documents. the worst possible thing to name anything in an archival finding aid. So we're gonna have to take a look at that one. Also, oversized documents, completely useless. As a section, it tells you nothing except that they're big, which is not useful for researchers. So, let me look. I mean, honestly, historical documents also doesn't tell you anything. So Series 3, Smithfield Plantation renovation, including appraisals, reports, and receipts. Series 4, renovations of other buildings, including information about the renovations of other structures on the Smithfield property. I don't understand the difference there between them saying Smithfield Plantation and other structures. I assume they mean the main house and the outbuildings, and that they're separated into two series, but that's not what they say, so I don't know for certain. Like general files as APVA General Files Series 5 as a series title, not great. Looking here in the content note, it expands to let you know that it's meeting minutes, financial reports, and building committee reports. If I was processing it, I would call those administrative files, which tells you a little bit more about what you'll find there. General, not a useful descriptor. Let's see, historical documents, like it's in archives. What else would there be? So like the last 4 series here are all not useful descriptors. I may actually assign a student to fix that at some point because it's really not good. But this is part of how we learn about archives on this stream. Also, hi Lord Portico, I saw you come in. And thank you for giving some points to Hannah for dropping those links in the chat. So historical documents dating from the original Preston family's residence at Smithfield, including manuscript account books of William Preston while residing at Greenfield. You haven't told us anything about what Greenfield is. Maybe it's in the biographical note? I don't know. Manuscript pages detailing work done by a wheelwright, and genealogical information about the Preston family. The miscellaneous documents category is materials relating to historic Montgomery County and the Smithfield Plantation. So why would you call it miscellaneous? You say documents about historic Montgomery County and the Smithfield Plantation. And then the collection contains Series 8, oversized documents. No, if that is a series of its own, the series title is Blueprints and Architectural Drawings. Because sorry. It bugs me when titles like that are not useful show up, and they show up a lot. I don't know when this was processed. It was processed initially in 96, with some additional description in 2009. Yeah, we're gonna have to fix those series at some point. Anyway, feel free to peruse through the finding aid and this list of folders down here, the container list. And if there is a folder title that stands out and you're like, what the heck is this? Or, ooh, that sounds interesting, let me know so that I can make sure to pull that folder out and we can take a look at it. For now, I'm actually gonna skip past some of the correspondence. We can always come back to that. I wanna see We have photographs and negatives, titles, copies of deeds, appraisals and plats. That sounds like real estate stuff. Acquisition of. Interesting. Okay, so I think that folder is about it being acquired by the organization, the Association for the Preservation of Virginia Antiquities, which is, if I'm remembering right from simple glimpses, sort of the process of it becoming an officially registered historic place. So that could be interesting. Historical information, restoration plan, budgets. Love budgets. Roof shingles. Do we have actual shingles, or is it documents about them? I think that's where we start. Did they put actual shingles in the archives? It may sound ridiculous, but it is not outside the realm of possibility. So, this collection has 13 boxes this size. I think that's good. It's the ones that I have an emote about on the Rogan 27 channel. Okay. So, Stephen, since you're here, I want to pick your brain for a second. The Smithfield Plantation dates from the founding of Montgomery County, Virginia, sometime in the 1700s, which means it is significantly younger than any historic place around where you live. But in the United States, there is this, what's called there's a register of historic places. And most states have their own, like a state register of historic places, and then there's a national register of historic places. And so I don't know for certain, I would need to look it up to check. I don't know for certain whether Smithfield is on the National Register, the State Register, or both. But is there anything similar to that in the UK? Like, is there anything similar where there is like this official register of this is a historic place, and it grants it certain either exemptions to law or protections to help with its preservation? So in the United States, for instance, if a place is on the National Register or of Historic Places, it is exempt from certain provisions of the Americans with Disability Act, specifically those with regard to having to make alterations to a place to install accommodations for physical handicaps. And because the whole intent behind having it registered as a historic place is preserving it so that people can see it, installing modern modifications to it does not preserve it. So in most cases, there's an exemption where they don't have to install something. Now, if they want to actually serve the community and do things like that, they make some sort of accommodation apart from widening doorways, which would damage the property and go against their mission of preservation. So, okay. In Ireland and the UK, you have listed and preserved places. Okay. I'm sure they are all significantly older than the ones on the United States list. All right, what was I looking for? The shingle. It just, this title of roof shingles, I have to know, is this just documentation about what type of shingles are on this property? Or is there going to be an actual shingle in this folder? Don't know if the exemption is the same, but National Heritage Lists. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't certain. I've never been there. I have been, the only places in Europe I've been are Belgium and the Netherlands. And that was because in library school, I did study abroad in the Netherlands because they have some very interesting approaches to librarianship in the Netherlands and are very innovative with library services. Yeah, okay. Colonial Williamsburg is the letterhead. I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit further on this document so that we can focus on it and see what it says. Here we go. You love that their letterhead specifically calls out, restored by John D. Rockefeller Jr. I've been to Colonial Williamsburg too many times. Growing up in Virginia, it was a regular field trip in primary school. Okay, December 2nd, 1960. So this is a letter to George Shackelford, director of the Montgomery Branch of the Association for Preservation of Virginia Antiquities. Your project at Smithfield Plantation for APVA sounds most interesting. Inquiry concerning asbestos shingles. We regret to inform you that these shingles are not sold commercially and that we do not have sufficient quantity in our stock for any other but our own foreseeable use. Some of the projects you referred to were probably done when this shingle was still in production and quantities could be obtained for other similar ventures, but unfortunately this is no longer the case. There is, however, a concrete shingle manufactured by the Hendricks Tile Manufacturing Company in Richmond, which we have used in a limited way here and have found it to be successful and worthy of your further investigation. So apparently, and unsurprisingly, the Smithfield buildings had asbestos shingles, and so they were trying to source replacements for them, it looks like. But not surprisingly, again, people aren't making asbestos shingles. So pointing them towards a concrete one that might serve. It is quite pretty letterhead, yeah. Sue likes to joke about how she did her uni exams in a building that's older than the Declaration of Independence. Yeah. And until I visited the Netherlands, and we had 2 days that we ran over to Belgium. I don't know. I don't think I had been in a building as old as some of the places I visited there. I don't think I had ever seen a building that old. In fact, I know I hadn't, because the only places I had been prior were in the United States, Canada, or Brazil, all of which had buildings that were under a couple hundred years old. My brain was like, how many hundred of years? But refused to give me the answer, so whatever. Let's see, Red Cedar Shingle Bureau. This is a letter to someone to Virgil Peterson at the Red Cedar Shingle Bureau. Referring again to our correspondence in 1957 when I was chairman of the research committee of the Virginia chapter of the American Institute of Architects, I should appreciate receiving copies of some of the information which you submitted to us at that time. I believe that you had put the information, including reports on investigation made at the university, into a report entitled The Case Against Fire Insurance Penalties. This report was sent by our American Institute of architect's secretary to the Virginia Insurance Rating Bureau. The reason I'm concerned, a very fine old colonial house on the property of Virginia Tech is being restored, and there's some question about using wood shingles versus a more fire-resistant material. The house called Smithfield is very old and very valuable. There's a real concern that it be protected from possible fires. From an aesthetic point of view and other considerations regarding the integrity of the restoration, it would be desirable to use wood shingles. However, it is argued with considerable validity that the use of cement asbestos shingles, simulating wood shingles, would result in lower insurance rates and greater security. I don't know the timing on when asbestos was deemed a no-no. This letter is from 1960, so maybe asbestos was still in general usage. I'm not certain. I don't think I have any actual shingles in here, and if they're asbestos, I'm glad of that. We have the response. Appreciate your calling our attention to the restoration of Smithfield. Attitudes on the subject of wood shingle roofing and alleged fire hazards are summarized. If you or other officials are concerned over the possibility of a fire hazard, you might consider treating it with chemicals. Oh, yay. Although we haven't tested and therefore can't testify to their effectiveness. Love that. Advise me to use chemicals that you don't know whether they actually work. Lovely. But they point to other people to communicate with. Banned in 1989. So this is 1960. This is well before it was banned. So I guess that first letter about it not being available probably just meant that that model was no longer available. And that letter was pointing them to this thing called the Case for Wood Shingle Roofs, which we apparently have a copy of in here. Surtee Split Manual of Hand Split Red Cedar Shakes. And no, I don't mean milkshakes. Red cedar milkshake sounds not good. Sorry. The things my brain does to me sometimes. Red cedar milkshakes, of all things, full of fiber, indeed. Western red cedar. Arbor vitae, tree of life. I've never heard that before. When adventurous mariners of many nations first explored the northwest coast of America in the 18th century, they found the coastal natives living in wooden longhouses, traveling the inland waters in beautiful wooden dugout canoes, eating from wooden platters and bowls, carving wooden totem poles to record their mythology. Can we drop the historical terms note in chat, please? Just because the tone of this feels a bit off. Cradling newborn babies in wood and bark backpacks and burying the dead in boxes of hewn wood. The all-purpose wood used by these Aborigines, quite literally from the cradle to the grave, came from massive trees of diameters up to 20 feet, which often towered 200 feet above the ground and lived to an age of 700 or 800 years. White men named the tree Western red cedar, or Arbor vitae. Botanists gave it the scientific name of Thuja plicata. These forest giants were highly respected by the natives, who endowed them with living souls. And we went and cut them all down. Oh, it's mod only on that channel? That's strange. Someday I need to fix the, someday I'd love to consolidate bots so that I only have one. I have yet to find the proper one. The one that will do everything I want and not cost a fortune. So anyway, apparently a sales booklet about cedar shingles. And no, wow, they didn't even spring for color in their sales booklet. They have a couple glossies, but no color pages. Sigh. Oh, it still didn't work? Grr. We shall make the bots fight each other to earn the title of the one true bot. Yeah, I don't. Let's see, the case for wood shingle roofs. The use of wood shingles for roofs is prohibited by law in a number of cities and towns, particularly in areas east of the Mississippi River. I have no idea when this was published. I assume sometime around the 1960s, because that was when the rest of the stuff in this folder was. There's a growing realization that such legislation is unjust and discriminatory, imposes a needless restriction upon builders, and adds substantially to the cost of home ownership. I mean, that could, I'm going to move on from that. That could describe any number of layered historical laws in the United States. Unjust to some group of people, favoring another group of people, generally with profit motive. Let's see, what else? There's one with photographs. I could always pull out the photos. Actually, I probably should have started with them. They are the first frickin' folder, and they'll help you all get a sense of, like, what is this building, or what does this plantation look like that was being restored? And yeah. I've actually been to, I think I've only been to Smithfield once. It's kind of, like, it's a historic place. I think, I honestly don't know if it's technically still part of Virginia Tech or not. I think it is still technically. But yeah, I've been there once. Because instead of the cheese festival, they just had a cheese tasting, and so we went one year and had a dinner with various cheeses. The things that you do before, yeah, whatever. Not gonna finish that sentence because my brain forgot where I was going. Okay, so photographs. Can anyone guess the date of this photo? Because honestly, it looks like a photo I could just walk out and take today. There is a wood shingle roof. So the date on it actually kind of surprised me. This is, no, Hannah, it is not 1960s. This photo is 1907. This photo was taken more than 100 years ago. I mean, I don't know how old the print is, but the photo is from 1907. Anonymous, Montgomery County, Virginia, Jamestown Exposition souvenir. I don't know what the Jamestown Exposition was. Might have to find that out. I've also been to Jamestown ridiculous number of times. Growing up in the DC metro area, I visited Jamestown, I visited Williamsburg, I visited Jamestown, I visited Williamsburg, I visited Jamestown, I visited Williamsburg. I visited the Air and Space Museum in DC oh so many times. But a couple times I got to go to New York, which was particularly interesting. Let's see. Again, okay, so this next one is also 1907. And it is from the Bugle. It's a detail from a page in the Bugle being Virginia Tech's yearbook. So this is detail on the Montgomery County Club from the Bugle in 1907. So they had regionally associated clubs, so depending, and a lot of them were associated with the various counties in Virginia. So like there was the Montgomery County Club and the Spotsylvania Club and the Roanoke Club and the Richmond Club. And it was in those club pages where the most racist pages in our yearbook appear in some of those old volumes. Haven't been to this side of the country. Hannah, it's worth a visit if you've never been to any of those types of landmarks. I know I need to get back up to like Broadway again someday. I used to go fairly regularly, but my husband has never been to Broadway, and would like to go. And I've been to some places down around like St. Louis and Kansas City and some of those places. I've also been various places in like Des Moines. And then, of course, I lived in the Twin Cities for a while, and so I've been various places there. I did eventually get out to Chicago and see some stuff. But also, while I lived in the Midwest, I made a special effort to go, and we went up to Winnipeg a couple times just to visit Canada. But I haven't been very many places out west. I've been to Los Angeles. Here's another image of the mill. But I was like super little when I went to Los Angeles, and we went to like Disneyland, and that was once. Although I've been to UCLA since then, but only once. I have been to the old city under the city in Seattle, though, which was really interesting. But yeah, I've also been to Smithfield Plantation here in Southwest Virginia, which is what we're looking at. Furthest west you've traveled is the Black Hills of South Dakota. I have been there. We went camping there. Aside from Florida in high school, I've never been that far south within the U.S. And Tennessee for a job interview. Tennessee would, depending on where you were in Tennessee, would be really similar to like where Virginia Tech is located as far as like geography and biome and stuff like that. The furthest west I have been in the country is Honolulu. because we lived there when I was very, very tiny. Very, very tiny being like in kindergarten. Let's see, what's this next one here? I'll show you, and then I have to flip it over to like find out what the caption reads. Photo by Michael Rudolph, 1930, unlabeled. Well, that's helpful. It looks to be a map of the vegetation at Smithfield. I love miscellaneous. I love unlabeled. Can you tell that's sarcasm? Because it is. What is that? 500 feet to spring. We've got west here, east there, north and south. What does that say? The barn is to the north of the house. Looks like we've got a fence. And just by the way it's drawn, my brain immediately goes to, if you've ever seen like any Civil War movies or visited a Civil War battlefield, which Hannah, having the only chance I can think of you might have done would have been like Tennessee, when you visited Tennessee. But the drawing a fence like that makes me think of, if you've ever seen like a Civil War movie or documentary, there's the wooden fences that are the posts with the crossed pieces of wood and then the logs. Anyway, that's probably what that fence was historically, and I would assume probably is again. They're really common in this area. I don't actually know what the name of that fence is. But you've got numbers, and so number 1 is on either side of this deck attached to the house, and it's labeled as Roses of Sharon. And then 2 along here is juniper. 3 right next to the juniper is flowering I think it's flowering gourd, but I'm not certain. Barricades more than fences. Yeah, kind of. I mean, they're fences today. 4 out over here is willow. I'm guessing it's probably just a single willow. The other 4 here are probably sugar maples, which is what 6 is. 5 is a mock orange? What the heck is a mock orange? And those are right along the fence line at the bottom here. 7 are black locust trees, and then mixed in among them are 8 lilacs. So somebody drew a map of the plants on the property. My guess probably my guess would be that this was a map drawn by the Virginia Polytechnic Institute arborist, who is responsible for caring for all of the trees. Maybe back then it was a a different title and included the bushes and stuff too. Today we do have an arborist who is responsible for all of the trees on campus. And then at some point somebody took a photograph of the drawing. You have mock orange trees around there, a smaller flowering tree. They smell good in the spring. Do they smell like oranges is the question. I take your word for it that they smell good to you. I don't particularly enjoy the smell of oranges, so it's sort of a silly me asking that question, but they do not smell like oranges. Assume they smell a bit like a flowering orange tree. Okay. I'm one of these weird people that does not like oranges, and if somebody starts peeling one on the other side of the room, it kind of turns my stomach. Let's see. This photo is by Robert Lancaster Jr. From 1915. Historic Virginia Homes and Churches. And I see portico. I see the hydrate, redeem. I'm really confused by these photographs because these appear to be photographs of photographs, and I'm curious why that is. Hi, Iron Trout. Like, they're glossies, but this is not the original photo. This is a photo of a photo. My guess would be the original photo is either owned by Smithfield or owned by somebody else, and these photos are part of the documentation for the Register of Historic Places application, or were in some way related to that. That would be my initial thought. It would take a little bit of research to figure out exactly why these photos exist in this form. But that's where my brain goes as like a likely possibility. Iron Trout, today we are looking at the Association for the Preservation of Virginia Antiquities, Montgomery County Branch Papers. And this collection is primarily focused on the restoration of historic Smithfield Plantation, which is one of the plantations mentioned at the top of my stream when I read the labor acknowledgement, where it talks about the legacy of slavery in places that are now property of Virginia Tech. So, establishing shots like that, I can see their use for like the purposes of restoration work. Just having just general shots of the area where you can see what it looked like from a distance, you can see where the trees were, you can see, but from like I've mentioned before on stream that like touristy photos I don't really understand. And so far off shots, I often, it's like, oh, it's some trees and some buildings in the distance. Where's the subject of this photo? But I understand these probably had a different purpose. Although this is basically the exact same shot, but when given a caption and a little border around the outside, it makes much more sense to me. Smithfield, home of William Ballard Preston, Secretary of the Navy under President Tyler, and Minister to France near Blacksburg, Virginia. I did not know that we have extensive collections on the Preston family. I have never touched them. I've never done anything with them. other people in the department are the ones who know about like the Preston family stuff. I don't. I'm just learning he was Secretary of the Navy under President Tyler. This I did not know. Let's see. I wonder what other... I'm going to move on from photos. We've looked at some of these photos, and these are, if we find other photos, good, but I'm gonna move on from this folder, unless you want to see more. Scream, shout, type sentences in the chat, or words. Type words in the chat. That's the thing. If you would prefer to stick with these photos for a bit, but I want to see what else. Photocopies or layouts and blueprints for Smithfield. Correspondence about refurnishing. Note paper and postal cards. Capital Funds Drive. Okay, words. Wait, you want to stick with the photos, Lord Portico, or were you just being joking? I need the clarification as to whether that was a joke or whether you want me to pull those photos back out. Right now, I am moving towards a folder that is titled Smithfield Plantation Restroom Project. I'm good to take us where I want to go? Okay. I mean, you all can guide the stream, but if you don't, then I just go wherever. I'm curious because when I was talking earlier about exemptions to the ADA for historic places, restrooms would be one of the specific things where like you need modern functioning restrooms. So what do you do? And so I'm curious to see what's in this folder. If I can get the folder out of the box. It's a relatively thick folder too, actually. So, but please, keep the toilet humor to a minimum. I mean, too much toilet humor and I might flush. And let's see. I don't know what we're gonna find here, so we'll find out. Office of Gibson Worsham Architect. I don't know what this is. Sealed proposals. Invitation to bid. Ooh. Hello. Hello, Whimsies. Welcome to Archival Adventures. Eric, thank you so much for the raid. As always, it is wonderful to have you join us. Today's adventure takes us to a place on the Register of Historic Places. It is a part of Virginia Tech's campus known as Smithfield. It is a historic plantation in Southwest Virginia that is specifically mentioned in our Land Acknowledgement and Labor Recognition Statement from the university because the people who owned the plantation also enslaved Black people there. And the papers that we have are from around 1960s to 1980s range and are specifically related to its restoration around the time that it was becoming listed on the list of historic places. So that's what we're looking at today. If anybody was here who does not follow 16-Bit Eric, you absolutely should. Wonderful, wonderful streamer. Talks a lot about tabletop role-playing games, which the Libraries channel has had a couple of in the past. And is just a all-around wonderful person. Today shared a lovely section of the new Hellboy RPG that has some of the best text regarding game mechanics and how they function without being ableist. Just absolutely amazing. It's always fun, and I always learn something. I don't know yet. I haven't actually dug in. This folder was labeled stuff about. Wait, is this the right folder? Nope. Yep, it is. I don't know. This one is just titled Restroom Project. It's Smithfield Plantation Restroom Project, and I don't know what that means. Reconstruction of Dependency at Smithfield Plantation, 26 December 1984. Is dependency a euphemism for restroom? What? I don't... Steven, stuff happens. I mean, these are bids, but so far it's all boilerplate. I'm not seeing anything interesting in these documents, unless you're looking at them from a certain point of view. Do you write contracts? Do you write official bids? Is this the kind of documents you create? Because then these might be super interesting. At the moment, I don't find them terribly interesting. Contract security. Prior to contract signing, enter into a bond with surety approved. I think it's, I don't know, approval as hereafter provided. Bond is to be for at least the amount of the contract. I'm not going to dig into this on stream. Dependencies in project management are factors or tasks that depend on, yes. I just was reconstruction of dependency. What do they mean by that? It's a services contract. Yeah, Portico. Let me see if there's anything remotely not legalese in this folder. I'm not opposed to reading legal stuff, but at the same time, wasn't really prepared to read through 1980s legal contracts. Painful to read. That coming from an actual lawyer in the chat. Oh gosh, these are more invitations to bid. But I haven't seen any actual bids. These are the invitation asking people to bid on how much will it cost for you to do this work for us? Which less useful than, or less attractive for stream. Less reasons to prompt tongue-in-cheek toilet humor. It's a folder about a restroom project. Gibson has made contract with Heikkinen, and is starting our sketches before employed as a calculated risk and no APVA obligations. I thoroughly endorse him for the job. Out of town till holiday. Great, somebody got an endorsement. I don't know. You're opposed to reading legal stuff unless you're getting paid at least $250 per hour. that sounds reasonable. In which case I should adopt same, except that I'm not qualified. But I can always use it as an excuse to not read legal stuff. So, okay. This is the only part of this folder that seems to be somewhat interesting. We've looked at some architectural stuff before. You're going to see tape. The tape is so I sort of know where under the camera is. Division of Engineering, Department of Public Works, Petersburg, Virginia, wall, floor, and ceiling finish details for toilet buildings. So by that, I take it like they built actual separate toilet facilities at Smithfield, which honestly makes sense for a historic plantation. You need the toilet facilities, but it's not like you're going to build them inside the historic building that is being preserved. So what do? You build another building. You want legalese? You pay legal fees. Puddle Glum, excellent work there. Also, welcome. So we have an architectural drawing of wall, floor, and ceiling details. Huh. Anybody see any issues with this drawing? Something jumps out to me right away. Talking about ableism. I wonder if I can zoom in further and just focus on the drawing. Yeah, okay. Very not maneuverable. I mean, that's part of it. I assume that their measurements for the stall door here meets the requirements of the time for how big it needed to be for wheelchair access. And so they designed the interior of this space with a wheelchair stall. And there's they've got the wheelchair symbol there to indicate that on the drawings. How does the wheelchair get inside? It doesn't look great, especially with a stone step at the front door. How are they getting in? Where's the ramp? These are windows. This is the only door. If I saw this drawing, I'd be like, how is the wheelchair getting in? Clearly designed for Professor X's private use. Maybe like the Daleks, they will elevate. Let's see. Yeah, even the exterior, golly gosh. Golly gosh. It doesn't, yeah. So this is the exterior of one of these toilet buildings. Very small. I mean, they want them small because they want them to be unobtrusive on the property because they're not part of the historic. Not using wood shingles, slate. Well, they want that. Actually, I think makes a ton of sense. I think part of the reason to use slate as opposed to the wood shingles in this case is that you're putting a modern facility on a historic property. You want it to be clear that it is a modern addition at a glance. So it should blend in but be identifiably modern, while the historic buildings are identifiably historic. So by putting slate on top instead of the wood, it differentiates it from the other buildings on the property. I don't know, but that's my initial thought as to why you would do something like, I think they would want to differentiate it. But the entrance here, the only entrance, has a step. A literal, actual step in the drawing. There's no ramp. I started to say I'm sure it has been. Hannah said, I really hope it's been updated since then. And I started to say I'm sure it has been, and then realized I'm not sure it has been. They should just have historically accurate outhouses. That is certainly an option. The thing is, if I go to their website, they probably don't have pictures of the toilet buildings. Like, there's no reason why they would take pictures of the toilet buildings. About history, activities. They don't really have like an FAQs page. I wonder if the directions page has stuff about accessibility. And their website does have like that, like stacked log fence that I was thinking of before. Also, Hiwa's not worth it. And Detective Zen. Maybe it's just a heavily pixelated ramp. Oh, Puddlegum. Good luck at not getting bogged down in other things. I hope I see you soon again. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna dwell at the moment on digging through their website to see if it's been updated. The university just got a large, or just launched a large project to improve campus accessibility. And with that, they're adding some elevators in places on campus. I'm not sure what all they're doing, but I know, like today, this article I saw was highlighting 2 large elevator buildings to help create a path for people in an area of campus where there's a big long series of stairs followed immediately by another big long series of stairs. And anybody who couldn't take the stairs had to make a very long detour to get to the same place. So anyway, let's see. Yeah, wow. Like, what was even the point of putting the handicap stall if there's no way for them to get inside? I think that was one of the proposals in response to the invitation for proposal. I don't know if it was an accepted proposal. Statement of qualifications. Orrin W. Arvold and Associates. This one sent in like an entire book in response to the request for invitation. Or request for invitation. Invitation for proposal. Yeah, we're not gonna dwell on that. That folder was less interesting than I anticipated, but potentially interesting under the right circumstances. And we did find something to pay attention to, which was that one proposal we looked at that had the drawings that was definitely not accessible design. Let's see. Archaeological testing of walkway feature, including slides and photographs. Needs more pictures to color in. Well, this one apparently has pictures. What the heck does this mean? Archaeological testing of walkway feature? I am uncertain as to what this means. I want to say, I can't remember. There are a couple of like archaeological digs in this area. I think Smithfield is one of the spots that has an archaeological dig specifically related to the history of slavery at the site. Google Maps and Satellite have a much larger modern building that looks like it would have accessible bathrooms and such. Yeah, I remember, like, I'm fairly certain that the cheese tasting that we went to, the cheese dinner that we went to was at Smithfield. And there were definitely modern bathrooms that were like fully accessible where we were. So let's find out what this is. This is prepared for the Association for the Preservation of Virginia Antiquities by Herbert G. Fisher, Staff Archaeologist, Virginia Historic Landmarks Commission, April 26, 1983. Barbara, I thought you would like a copy of the findings from the archaeological investigation of the walkway. Unfortunately, some of the slides of the walkway are very dark. I did not bring the light box, so it says there are photos. So hopefully we can look at photos rather than slides. Angus has more slides of mine, which he needed for a presentation. I think the ones he has are slightly clearer. I can either bring the artifacts back to Angus or to you at Smithfield. I should say that it will be a couple of months before I will be in the vicinity of Blacksburg. Herb Fisher, I think it says. You're sure Barbara appreciates it anyway? Probably. The only handicap parking spot you can find on the map is actually concrete. It has a good wheelchair lift space next to it. That is good to hear. Let's see, I don't know. We got some Kodachrome and Ektachrome slides. It said there were photos. Okay, there are. I'm gonna just, we can look at these if we need to. I can rig up some way for me to show them on camera, but after we look at the photos, then I'll know if they're the same thing or not. Let's see, I would like to thank Mrs. Barbara Schmidt, Mrs. Frances Hutchison, and Dr. Herman L. Heikkinen for their assistance and suggestions. In addition, I would like to thank David E. Rettenzer, Rottenizer, possibly, for providing notes and artifacts from the initial exposure of the walkway. Appreciations also extended to Beverly Bogley and Catherine Youngs for assisting me in the identification of the recovered artifacts. I'm very curious now. Abstract, please explain to me what we're looking at. We're not going to read this entire paper. but we'll look at photos, and I'd like to know what it's about. In March of 1983, workmen unexpectedly encountered a subsurface feature during the installation of a fence within the north yard of Smithfield Plantation, an association for the preservation of Virginia Antiquities property located in Blacksburg, Virginia. Further uncovering of the feature revealed a flagstone walkway with a small section of brick paving. Results from excavation underneath the walkway revealed that it was likely built between 1840 and 1880 and served as a pathway between the main house and an accessory building that previously existed in the north yard. A large, intact trash feature dating from the 1770s to the 1820s was found underneath the walk. This feature has further research potential for explaining early foodways and habitats at Smithfield. Okay. There are some errata. Following report contains the results of archaeological testing of a walkway feature unexpectedly discovered during construction of a fence at Smithfield Plantation House, circa 1773, located adjacent to the campus of Virginia Polytechnic Institute in Blacksburg, Virginia. Testing was conducted to determine the age of the walkway, its possible association with an accessory building, the smokehouse, known to have existed within the north yard, and whether continuation of planned garden and landscaping activities by the association would compromise or destroy this feature. Do we trust Angus? Zen, I don't know. Huh. I just was reading the first sentence on that page. 4 previous archaeological surveys have been performed. On the last occasion, testing of the north yard was performed during the week April 7th through April 15th, 1982, to locate possible cultural features, including the remains of 2 former accessory buildings depicted in historic photographs. The results of the 82 survey revealed most of the north yard had been disturbed by 20th century landscaping and grading, and no intact features dating earlier were likely present. This was based on the mixed stratigraphic profiles recorded and the mixed concentration of historic period artifacts with 20th century debris. During the 82 survey, so they were looking for the smokehouse. They couldn't find it, but at some point they found this walkway. Oh, that's what's meant by dependencies. The main house and the dependencies. I still don't really understand what it means, but it's not dependencies like of tasks within a project. It is the outbuildings are being referred to as dependencies. What I don't know is, are dependencies outbuildings serving different purposes, or is dependencies a term for where the enslaved people lived? Honestly, I feel like they're too close to the main house for that to be the case, but that's where my brain goes as a possible definition. Let's see. North Yard, initial discovery. There are actual photos in here, and I'm curious, because the slides show the excavation. At most, like, we don't need to read all the discussion that's in this paper. Abstract and conclusions. That's all we really need on this stream. Plan view path of walkway. Huh. Okay, let's see. Here's part of what I want here. Is a photograph. Plate 1, exposed view of south end of walkway with brick in the background. Get it out of this folder here. And yeah, these are the same as the slides. So this is the walkway they found when they were preparing to do landscaping work. Huh. There are more pictures too, so we'll get to them. I've always been somewhat fascinated by archaeology. I briefly considered archaeology as a path until I took my first anthropology class. It was, there were multiple reasons, but needless to say, anthropology was not my best subject. And taking the anthropology class made me reconsider archaeology as a possible destination for me. That said, I do enjoy exploring history. So this photo, gotta love the lovely bright red arrow pointing to where they're doing this excavation. So relatively near the house, it seems like. But also, you get a good view of the house there. Jeepers, it's 4:06 already. I wanted to explore some of the miscellaneous and see if we can figure out what it is. Let me throw out there, as we are approaching the end of the stream, we're less than a half hour left. If anybody sees anything on the finding aid that you're interested in having me pull out, let me know. These are unlabeled. It just says plate 5. It refers to a spot in the text, though, so labeling it on the envelope probably isn't really necessary beyond there. I'm just not taking the time to go and look up what they wrote about them. However, we do have plate 2, brick recovered from walkway, a much more useful. So these are some bricks from the walkway. And you can see the conclusions on the paper behind the photos. You believe these are known hiding places of Waldo? You might be right. So, looks like we have some shards of pottery, some buttons. What is that? So a button, that's definitely a coin. I'm not certain about that. Looks like we have like a knife handle possibly. Let's see what the conclusions say, and maybe it will tell us what some of those items are. The results from the archaeological testing of this walkway feature are summarized in the following. The walkway was built between 1840 and 1880. The paving, brick, and flagstone were likely placed at the same time. The ash found between the brick suggested that it was placed after the stone. However, the artifacts recovered under each date to the same period. No evidence of a walkway preceding the existing one was found. The walkway served to connect the north bulkhead entrance of the east wing of the main house to an east entrance to the smokehouse. The entrance of the smokehouse would have lain 40 degrees north of the main house. A large intact trash midden dating to the early 19th century lies underneath the walkway. One trash feature was deposited between 1770s and 1820s, the earliest archaeological feature found. Type and quantity of domestic-related artifacts found indicate that the east wing of the house served as the kitchen, during the early historic occupation of Smithfield, post 1773. Huh. You gotta love archaeologists being really, really happy that a pile of trash got preserved. Like, ooh, we found the trash bin. Excitement. And honestly, yeah. Because otherwise, we wouldn't have those artifacts. Brass button with broken shank. Blue shell, porcelain. Huh. I don't see the coin. I thought there was a coin, but maybe it was something else. Anyway, I'm gonna see. There's an entire series just labeled miscellaneous, which is an archives crime. Like, just no. That is not a useful label. Especially for an entire series. I can see occasionally you get down to like a couple of random items and you're like, do I really have to create 3 or 4 folders for these? Can't I just do one? They're unrelated to the main content. Can't I just do one folder that says miscellaneous? And in some cases, the answer is yes. In others, it's no. Tell people what it is. But labeling an entire series within the collection as miscellaneous, that is just wrong. Hi, wannabe. But I use miscellaneous all the time. But you also lose things all the time. And see, the thing is, it would be different if the note was like, these are the titles that existed in the papers when they came to us. But that's not what it says. These titles were created by the person processing the collection, and they're not useful. There are like essentially 4 series titles in here that all equate to general/miscellaneous and tell you nothing about what is actually in those documents. The titles don't. They do elaborate on like what's actually in them, but the title should be more descriptive than it is. All right, miscellaneous documents, 1959 to 1986. Apparently they are in box 13. So I'm gonna pull that box off of the bottom shelf here. Lucky number 13. Miscellaneous is quicker than I don't know how to file all this. Sorry, I missed the last word there. I don't know how to file all this crap. You're not wrong, Detective Zen. And considering, what is it, Zipf's Law? Is that the one I'm thinking of? No, that's not the one I wanted to think of. Maybe it's just called, yeah, okay. No, it's just called the principle of least effort. Considering the principle of least effort, it's understandable that people, especially students doing processing, would apply those kinds of labels. It's the archivist's job to say, this isn't descriptive enough. Maybe consider a label such as X. Hi, Puddleglum, welcome back. You also save folders to the desktop. Oh, desktop year. I think I might have a couple of those because I was like, I don't have time to go through this to see if I need to keep all this stuff, so I can't delete it, so I just shoved it all in a folder to clean up my desktop. I've done that before, and I literally, like, a large part of my job is knowing how and actually organizing material. Let's see, National Trust of America Printed Materials. Also, what was the title of this folder, I wonder? This is the, I pulled this folder and I didn't even check to make sure that it's what I wanted. It is. It is the first folder in Series 7, Miscellaneous Documents. National Trust of America Printed Materials, also associated printed matter from Alexandria Forum, Annapolis, Charleston, Cooperstown, Society of Architectural Historians, I'm not certain. This would have been like an exterior like envelope, like a big envelope with the little flap, and they cut off the identifying information and got rid of the envelope. Program of the 14th annual meeting of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, October 21st to 23rd, 1960. So, I mean, this was labeled as National Trust for Historic Preservation Printed Material, which is a useful label. Like, it tells you what's in this folder. It tells you that you'll find printed things, meaning like not manuscript materials, actually, like these are publications or things from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Wow, this one has somebody was going through editing it, which is kind of neat. The Constitution and bylaws, and somebody was doing a major revision on them. Which, if I was researching like the history of this organization or was particularly interested in their Constitution and bylaws, having the like handwritten notations of what used to be there and what it was changed to, that's very useful from like a historic research perspective, and also kind of cool. I mean, today, like Google Docs will like track all of your changes, but it's not like that. It's not as fun as that. Boulanger. And okay. I don't know. I'm not gonna, I don't know. I mean, this was literally in the miscellaneous section, so it's interesting, but also there's more stuff to look at and no time. And I want to see what else got shoved into the miscellaneous category. Information about tourist industry. I think they just were like, but it'll be so many more series if I do actual descriptive things. Your community can profit from the tourist business. Really? Tell me how. U.S. Department of Commerce, Office of Area Development, How can my community profit from the tourist business? When was this published? 1957 by the GPO. I've been to the GPO. I have some lovely like bookmarks that have marbled ink sides that I got there. This is gonna be great. I could tell. I'm so excited. Yeah. This booklet is addressed particularly to communities that feel the need to create more jobs and raise income levels. Its purpose is to explain how such communities can help achieve these objectives by interesting themselves in one of the largest and fastest growing businesses in the United States, the tourist business. A tourist is generally considered to be a vacationist, or one who is traveling for pleasure. The word tourist, however, is used here as meaning anyone who travels away from home. The business traveler, for example, spends money for the same kinds of facilities and diversions as does the vacationist, and the economic effects of his staying in a community are comparable. Estimates by private organizations of the amount of money being spent annually by tourists, including business travelers, in this country range from about $15 billion to $24 billion. The vacationist portion of this spending is, of course, done at the discretion of the vacationist, and can therefore be regarded as a potential of business income for the communities that seek to attract it. This is not true of the business traveler, who spends much of his money where he does not, who spends much of his money where he does because of necessity rather than choice. Nevertheless, much business travel is capable of being prolonged for tourist purposes, or it may be diverted to include another community along or near the route. As yet, there is no measure of the degree of discretion exercised by business travelers with respect to the length or location of their stopovers. Unquestionably, it is large, and as a supplement to purely tourist travel, constitutes a community business potential of considerable importance. Because there exists no specific figure of total expenditures for tourist purposes, the figure of $20 billion is used in this booklet as an approximation to indicate the possible magnitude of the tourist industry in all its phases. Victor Roteris, Director, Office of Area Development. Was anybody confused by the word tourist? That's an excellent question, Detective Zen. I don't know how useful it will be. I'm going to run a quick check. I just don't know that it will give me any results. So let me check and see. The word tourist. Yeah, okay, so I'm referencing the Google Ngram viewer. If you're not familiar with it, I can actually throw it up on screen here. I don't have a problem doing that. So this is Google Books Ngram viewer. So this is searching all of the books that exist within Google Books, which includes scans of a lot of historic books as well as modern items. And it's looking just at the total, like, how often is a word used over time. And so it can give you somewhat of a sense of, like, oh, suddenly a new word popped up that you don't remember hearing a lot of, and suddenly you're hearing it everywhere. And if you go and check the Ngram viewer, sometimes you'll see it was super popular in like the mid 1800s and fell out of fashion, and then now it's recently come back in. But here we see the word tourist basically didn't get used very much at all prior to, like, sometime in like the early 1800s here, you can see just basically just not used. And honestly, this scale is very small. But it grows in usage over the course of the 1800s, spikes around 1920, and then really starts to take off in usage. Looking at that, I would say around the end of at the end of World War II. So mid-1940s-ish, it really just starts to take off. So explaining what a tourist is in a book in 1957, essentially they're making sure that you know, because it's a fad word that's really only been in popular usage for 10 years or so. So yeah, excellent question, Detective Zen. And yeah, that is, I don't often get good opportunities for pulling up the Ngram viewer, but this was a perfect one. So, oh, this is so cute. The GPO does publish some really, really nice stuff. Really classy publications. They also, every single day, or every single session, when Congress is in session, after Congress adjourns, the GPO prints the minutes of that session before the start of the next business day. So when they have a session that goes into the middle of the night, the people at the GPO are there, waiting to print those minutes into their bound booklets before the beginning of the next business day. Acceptance and thank you notes for preservation of restored grounds and garden of Smithfield Plantation. Well, that's related to the restoration, so it should not be in the miscellaneous. It should be in the restoration series. Resume and letter of recommendation for Jeffrey Clayton Turner, who was the resident caretaker. Notes on Virginia publications. I'm just curious, like right now I'm just sort of going through like, what did they consider miscellaneous? Williams Mill Report, Valley Roller Mill Restoration, includes photographs and negatives. So that, to me, that would be like a background file on another restoration. So again, related specifically to the restoration. It's not miscellaneous. That is research material to support their proposal for the restoration. And then we've got genealogy of the Montgomery and Graham families. I can sort of see how that might go under miscellaneous if you need to put it under a category. The thing is, they don't actually have to be in a category. You can have individual folders. You don't need a series heading for everything in the collection. Have a thought for the clerks and publishing offices that have to get up with congressional shenanigans. TM. Yeah, Lord Portico. Historical map of Montgomery County. But a lot of this is like background. This is In fact, I would say most of this miscellaneous documents, aside from like the tourist industry thing, the National Trust for Historic Preservation booklets, but most of the stuff that I've been pulling out without actually like opening the folders is background research to prepare for a restoration proposal. It's not miscellaneous, it's their research file. We doubled down. I'm just gonna show this, and this is the last thing we're gonna look at, but the person who processed this collection doubled down. So within the series titled Miscellaneous Documents, we have miscellaneous unidentified pen sketches of lake scenes and trees, artist unknown, no date. This is miscellaneous. So this is, okay, essentially, the person who processed this labeled this folder miscellaneous miscellany by someone at some time. We don't know when, we don't know who, we don't know what. Which sometimes you don't know, but these aren't miscellaneous. These are pen sketches of lake scenes and trees, unknown artist, no date. You don't need miscellaneous. You don't need unidentified pen sketches. Just pen sketches. You could just start the description there. It's much more definitive. It tells people, hey, these are pen sketches of lakes and trees. We don't know who drew them. We don't know when they're from. But we know they're pen sketches. They're not miscellaneous. Just, oh gosh. Sorry, I don't need the glove for this one. But I also don't really need to rant about, but this collection actually has provided a lot of really good opportunities for me to point out some errors in processing. Now, any large collection is going to end up with some errors in the processing. We just don't have the time or workforce to be as meticulous as one might wish. And I definitely understand people who are new to description. So these aren't just pen sketches either. This is pen. This is pen with smudging, but I can't tell. I think the smudging is actual like pencil, and like it's got shading and smudging with pencil. These are actually really pretty. But I understand, like, if it's somebody who's new to description, and you get down to the end of the collection and you're like, none of this stuff is the main thrust of what this collection is about. It's just extra stuff that they included. But for some reason, the decision is being made to keep it. It's just as important to be accurate in describing it, because your goal is to help people find things. And you don't know, somebody might be looking for pen sketches. And so they might be interested in finding these pen sketches, but they might not get past the word miscellaneous. And if you call something miscellaneous, then there's a good chance that nobody ever sees it again. So even if it means you have 25 more entries in your list of what's in the collection, and give much more attention to materials than it feels like they deserve in the context of the rest of the collection, you need to describe them. You need to say what they are and not just call it miscellaneous, because miscellaneous means no one will ever see it again. Because nobody ever has any reason to look inside. Whereas if you say what it is, somebody might be looking for it and will be very happy that you identified it. Anyway, I was not certain what to expect with this collection. I was curious about, I think when I picked it, it was initially because the word antiquities was in the title of the collection, and I was curious. And then it turned out it was about Smithfield. And Smithfield is really tied into the history of enslaved people here at Virginia Tech. And so I wasn't sure what to expect. And then it was about the restoration of Smithfield, and I was like, So I wasn't sure going into today how interesting it would be, but actually I think it was kind of interesting. We glanced at a couple of things, we dug into a few things. Ultimately, I was much more interested in the way that the collection was described than in the materials themselves, although there were some really interesting materials. But I never know what we're gonna do on stream until we get on stream, because I don't look at the collections beforehand, other than a cursory glance. And so it's always an adventure to discover what are we gonna learn today. And I'm glad that you all join me for that adventure. It's a fun time. I appreciate you hanging out. Let me look and see where we want to go today for our end of stream raid. And let me mute this tab so that we don't get random whatever starts playing. Well, I don't think there's any I occasionally will search and just see it. Is there somebody random who's got the history tag and is doing educational stuff? Because it'd be nice to raid more of that kind of thing, but not at present. So we could go to the aquarium and visit the kelp forest. That seems enjoyable today. Let's chill out, visit the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and take a look at the kelp forests on their kelp forest cam. Let me just set up the raid here. And next week, our adventure is going to be also kind of scattered. In that I have selected what I am calling the Black History Small Collections. I searched out and found various one-folder collections from across our manuscript collections, and collated them all together for us to explore next week. They all have something to do with the history of Black people in America. Given the nature of our holdings, a number of them deal with slavery in the United States. So I will be letting people know that on stream next week. But yeah, Black History Small Collections. These are collections that would be too small for me to do an entire stream on one of them. So I've gathered them all together, and we'll do them all together. But hopefully I see you again soon. Until I do, I hope you continue exploring history. Thanks all.